Welcome to Reggie Sports Talk in the morning. It is November 19th. It's a beautiful Thursday day. I really wish we had this day next week for Thanksgiving. It is almost 60 degrees out there and it looks like it's going to get warmer. Gosh, what a beautiful day we could have had in a pandemic Thanksgiving. Today on the Reggie Sports Talk in the morning, I am going to sit down and talk with Jason Foreman. Jason Foreman is a youth pastor at Pathway Community Church out here in Elmhurst, and he is also helps out at Elmhurst University with our crew. And Jason used to play football too. Not at Elmhurst, but he used to play football. So today Jason and I are going to sit down and talk about the Bears, what their offense needs, what we need as a Bears organization to make ourselves look oh so good again. Man, 2017 was so far, yet so close in our hearts. Just one kick away from a playoff run and potential Super Bowl win. But let's see what the Bears need to do to recover from a horrible 8-8 season. And then whatever's happening this year. Whatever this is, let's see what the Bears need to do. Without further ado, let's introduce our guest, Jason Foreman. Yeah, Jason, yeah! How are you, Jason?
Oh, doing all right today, RJ. A little warm in the office today, but thank you for that introduction. I'm glad that you pointed out my glory days of freshman B team quarterback for the West Chicago Wildcats. Those were the days. So, yes, I did play football, but maybe not quite to the level that you have alluded to.
Well, any football is good football. You're looking at a Pee-wee champion over here.
There we go. That's right, man. It's a fun game.
Plates, that's Pop Order. All right, Jason. So let's get down to business. The Bears suck. Offensively, we can't do anything. Last week, the only touchdown we scored was on a special teams kickoff return. What do we need to do differently as an offense?
That's a great question. I mean, there's just, I feel like everything. You look at the game against the Vikings on Monday night, and listening to some other talk shows on it, calling it an historically awful offensive performance, just across the board. Some people even trying to make the argument that it could potentially, across generations and the ways that the franchise has changed, potentially be one of the worst offensive showings that the Bears have ever had. So coming out of that game, I mean, I feel like in the first half, some of the play calling fit where the Bears were at a little bit better. So we'll give credit due where credit is due there. I mean, a lot of these quick routes, quick outs, 3-step drop, release the ball right away. 2.5, 3 seconds later, the ball's out of Nick Foles' hands, which needs to happen when you've got an offensive line that's not going to block for pass or run, right? So you just need a bunch of those quick release plays, which in a reverse fashion, if you can get several of those quick release plays going, that will actually hopefully open up the run game a little bit. And so I think if you can stick with that early on in the game, try to open up the run game a little bit, then you may actually set yourself up for some of these. If your run game's somewhat established, set yourself up for some of these play action where you might develop a slightly longer pocket and be able to take some shots downfield. I'd like to see that happen. But again, with an offensive line that can't really block, it's still even difficult to call those types of plays.
Yeah, I agree. I think our offense line is abysmal. They can't block. They couldn't even block a trash can away from the curb. Like, they're just that bad. To put in perspective on how bad the Bears' offense was yesterday or on Monday, the Bears had 149 yards of offense. Cordell Patterson's kickoff return for a touchdown was 104 yards. And that doesn't count in their offense. But on one special teams play, they almost had more offense on that one special teams play than they had the whole rest of the game.
Yikes.
If you add the punt return yards from Anthony Miller's punt return in the third or third or fourth quarter too. The Bears had more special teams yards than they had offensive yards in that whole game from kickoff returns and punt return yards.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is awful. And early on when I heard the Bears had gotten Foles, I was really amped about that. And now I'm not sure. I mean, we're kind of stuck in this, like, Trubisky's a little bit more athletic. He can move around a little bit more, which is maybe a little bit of what you need right now with how terrible the blocking is on, particularly on the pass plays. But Foles will at least look through a few progressions. The issue is he doesn't have time to look through those progressions.
Yeah.
So Trubisky kind of works a little bit more at this point in the season because he's going to go to his one hot route, which is all the time any of the quarterbacks are getting anyways. And he'll be able to make a little bit more, gain a few extra yards or scramble a little bit and buy a little bit more time than Foles can. Even though Foles is a little bit more comfortable in creating a pocket, or even when a pocket is collapsing, Foles tends to be able to stay in there a little bit longer. That just doesn't seem to be working for the Bears. I would like to see them go back to Trubisky. I don't know if that's going to happen, though.
I agree with you. I think the Bears need to go back to Trubisky. There's been times in the Foles era of Chicago where I'm looking at a play that Foles is either sacked on or throws the ball away, where I see a wide open run lane, and I'm like, Trubisky would have ran for 20 right there. And Foles just isn't comfortable running. The couple times we've seen him run, we see him get 1 to 2 yards and then almost slide down or get hit right away, where Trubisky probably would have made a little bit more of it. I think also when you look at like the stats, the Bears are dead last in offense, or 31st almost. They're either dead last or almost last to the Jets being the only other team worse than them offensively this year with Foles in. And with Trubisky, we jump up to like 25, 24th and everything. So it's almost like Trubisky is leading the offense better, even though it looks like to the coaches it might be Foles. Another thing I want to say is I think that Matt Nagy has now gotten his man. He wants Nick Foles. He can't win with him. He wasn't able to win with Trubisky. I think the Matt Nagy experiment needs to be over. Matt Nagy had the one good year for us in Chicago. It was 2018, sorry, not 2017. And I think that Matt Nagy needs to go. He had the one good year for us, and then he tried to make Trubisky a pocket passer. It's clear he was never high on the quarterback that the Bears had, and I don't want to see him in Chicago for another year if he's not going to work with the pieces he has, if he's going to throw a temper tantrum and try to change it to what he wants. He's building the offense around what he wants to do, not the pieces he has. You have Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney, Anthony Miller, Jimmy Graham, Cole Kmet, David Montgomery, Cordell Patterson, and you're telling me that you can't build an offense that can score more than 13 points a game. We're averaging 13 points a game on offense. We got 6 last week, and you're telling me Matt Nagy can't do anything with that?
That's a great point. It's bizarre that he comes in and he's referred to as an offensive-minded head coach. And, okay, sure. 2018, we see a nice little spark there. But the play calling this year, I think what I enjoyed about Nagy was his willingness to, and maybe they need to go back this a little bit, but his willingness to do some more misdirection and creative plays. And I enjoyed a few, though. I think in the 2018 season there was a 2-point conversion that I loved. Where it was a great little misdirection, kind of double flick, go one way, go the other way, and just run it in for that 2-point conversion. I'm willing to say let's try a few more of those on offense because nothing else is working right now.
Yeah, I think also Nagy is seen as this offensive guru, but in his last game in Kansas City, his play calling was taken away from him in the middle of that game. Andy Reid took over in the playoff game, because Nagy couldn't finish the job. And I've just always wondered why we have someone like Matt Nagy calling our plays, and we've let call our plays for this long, and now he's brought in his friend Bill Lazor, who seems like he's just calling the same game as Matt Nagy.
Yeah. I mean, it looked a little different in the first half. And actually in the first half against the Vikings, there were a few plays where that pocket developed, and Foles was able to take 5 seconds and throw the ball. But second half, it was like, is Nagy calling the plays again? Because it looked just the same.
Pat O'Donnell punted 6 times in the second half of the game. With the 6 punts that Pat O'Donnell probably had, he probably also had more punting yards than the Bears had offense. So, yeah, Pat O'Donnell.
Yeah. Oh, man, I feel like since we've had O'Donnell, he's probably punted more than any punter in the league. I mean, I feel like I always see O'Donnell out on the field punting for the Bears.
We have special teams. We have a defense. We just need an offense. One thing that I think the Bears need to do this offseason is either draft a young QB or pick someone up from this year. Someone who I think the Bears could look at bringing in, who's already playing, is Sam Darnold. Now, I know people might think the Jets are 0-16, but Adam Gase is an idiot. And Sam Darnold has a cannon on him. If we give Sam Darnold time in a pocket, with the receivers we have, with the offense we have, and then in the draft we build an offensive line around him, Sam Darnold could very easily be the average quarterback that the Bears defense needs to bring them farther. Sam Darnold's might even be above average. I think he just needs a chance.
I like that. That raises just a more general question for me that I'm just been curious about recently. Is that just always seems to be the Bears' game plan? Is let's have our defense just continue to be our Bears' defense. Let's build special teams to be above adequate, and then let's find an average quarterback and have an average offense. I love the idea of defense really is important. Defense wins championships. But what is it about the Bears in particular, and then in general, there are these other franchises like the Packers or the Patriots, or even the Cowboys for a while, where they're able to consistently build a franchise quarterback who becomes just this staple name. What is it about other franchises that are able to do that, and the Bears just never have had a quarterback that you can say, yeah, that was a great quarterback?
Yeah, I feel like the Bears are always a wrong draft pick away from doing that. You look the year we drafted Trubisky, Patrick Mahomes, and Deshaun Watson were on the board. You can make the argument, and many people do, that if you look at articles coming around that time and you look at stuff said, Trubisky was considered the most pro-ready quarterback out of the rest of them. Deshaun Watson, people were afraid of his durability because of how much he ran. And we saw that his rookie year, he tore his ACL.
Yeah.
So that already could have been the end of the Deshaun Watson experiment. We've seen him come back, though, and make it to the playoffs. He hasn't done well in the playoffs, but he's been to the playoffs. You look at Patrick Mahomes. Everyone thought, okay, Patrick Mahomes played for Texas Tech. He was a Big 12 quarterback with a Big 12 offense and a Big 12 defense, and a lot of Big 12 games are whichever team can get one stop on defense in the game can win the game. So everyone was like, okay, that's just because of the system that Patrick Mahomes was in and because of the conference Patrick Mahomes was in. So no one really thought Patrick Mahomes was going to go on and become the Patrick Mahomes that we see nowadays.
Yeah.
And then you look at Trubisky from North Carolina, who, yes, only played 10 games or 12 games, whatever it was, his last year, and those were the only games he played in college. But he was making the reads he needed to do. He was running when he needed to do. Trubisky looked like a totally different quarterback in North Carolina than what the Bears ended up drafting. And I don't know if that was John Fox ruining him before the Nagy experience came in, and then in 2018, Nagy gave Trubisky a chance to be what he wanted to be. And then in 2019, it almost seemed like Nagy tried to make him, hey, look at what Patrick Mahomes can do. He can stand in the pocket and gunsling the ball. That's what I want you to try to do. I don't know if that's what happened, but it almost seems like whatever happened, the Bears ruined a quarterback who was pro-ready and ready to win with them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a great point, yeah. Think of, even everything you brought up with Watson and Mahomes, and, you can't fault the pick of Trubisky, but I think you bring up a great point of, even I thought in the first several games I saw Trubisky playing, I thought, and maybe I was subconsciously comparing him to a Mahomes, or not to a Watson, but probably to a Mahomes, of, man, this guy just doesn't seem comfortable in the pocket. At 2 seconds, 3 seconds in, it's scramble time, and it's, in my mind, I'm like, man, if they could just teach him to step up as the pocket is collapsing kind of at his side or behind him, he'll have another second and a half to get rid of the ball and keep his eyes downfield to see where he's going. So I would have ruined Trubisky if I were coaching too. So, but I see the point you're making, that most likely it seems like the coaching kind of took a pro-ready quarterback, and when you don't use them to their potential, when you don't use them based on when you don't play to their strengths, it's kind of a double negative. Yeah. Like you're missing out on what they have, but then you're also pushing them to do something that they're not designed to do, and then you end up with what we've got right now.
Yeah. So we've talked about the quarterback a lot. We've talked about needing a new offensive line. We talked about maybe bringing in a new head coach or play caller. Some names I want to throw around really quick to look at for a head coach. I'll just say a name, and Jason, you could say if you've heard of them really quick or what you think of them.
Yeah.
Lincoln Riley from Oklahoma.
No, that name is unknown to me.
Okay. Well, you look at the quarterbacks that Lincoln Riley's had lately and how well they've done. Baker Mayfield won a Heisman. Kyler Murray won a Heisman. Jalen Hurts, Heisman potential, and now plays for the Eagles. So those are people Lincoln Riley's been able to play with and coach and has done a really good job with. And I think every year that there's a head coaching job thrown around, Lincoln Riley's name is mentioned in the running for it. And I think this year should be the year that someone pulls the trigger and brings him up. You've seen what Cliff Kingsbury has done in Arizona, and even just the 1 year Matt Rule's had in the Panthers, you've seen a totally different organization. Both Big 12 coaches, Matt Rule from Baylor, Cliff Kingsbury from Texas Tech, both Big 12 coaches who have come into the NFL and have had potential and look like they're turning organizations around who are totally spiraling in a different direction super fast. A quarterback name I want to throw out there that a lot of people are mentioning, Justin Fields.
He's your guy.
He's my guy. You can ask Thomas about that one. He is my guy.
Yeah, I mean, Justin Fields would be such an asset for the Bears. Even if he's not your guy like he is for you, RJ. Yeah. He's certainly better than what we've got in either Foles or Trubisky.
13 total touchdowns, 11 incompletions. Didn't play last week, so that stat still stands.
Well, see, and that's the thing, too, is if you can get a quarterback who's going to protect the ball and give your offense a little bit more time on the field, so that your defense isn't so gassed. I mean, the defense, despite the amount of time that they're playing on the field, the defense is still playing so well. So you get a Fields who has this insane touchdown to incomplete pass ratio, and this is a quarterback who's going to protect the ball, who's not going to turn the ball over, who's not going to misfire very often, and especially with the Bears offense right now, like when you have your shots, you need to be able to hit them.
So Lincoln Riley and Justin Fields, should they be the next Bears duo together, head coach, quarterback? or do you think it should be someone else? Let us know in the comments down below. Jason, thank you for the time today.
Yeah, thanks, RJ. It was fun.
And let us know who you think should be the next Bears head coach and quarterback, if you think we need to change the head coach and quarterback, because we need to do something. If you like this video, remember to comment, subscribe, and like it. I'm trying to get monetized, people. I'm trying to make a little bit of money off this. Let's help me out here. Share this with your friends, send it out, subscribe to my channel, like the video, and thank you for joining us on Reggie Sports Talk in the Morning on this beautiful November 19th day. Have a great day, everyone, and see you next week.